think we might have two residents about item 15 and 16 traffic comments and bring that forward, because I think they've made an effort to get here out of the route. George, would you like? I'm just trying to see whether the Mayor would bring your item forward. Would you do that, your wish? Sure. To allow you to be involved with this item?
Item number 15, which is regarding the Lake Terrace traffic calming. We have Mr. Lewis, please, engineer, and we do have a couple of members of the public here. Nice to see you. If you'd like to, you're most welcome to come a little bit forward if you want to. Just in case there's any queries or clarification on this. I think everyone's been circulated the information and previous.
And I've also emailed some additional information from Mr. Dustin that arrived on my laptop for all councillors.
Yeah, I presume everyone's got that. Thanks, Dennis. If you could take us away on this one, please.
Yes, Your Worship, at the last council meeting I presented a report recommending acceptance of a tender. That report was tabled seeking further information, background on the reasons for the work that was proposed in that report, and I've gone through the files and attached the information relating to the background to that, starting off with the council, or I think it was a TKMP, receiving a petition.
Okay, thanks, Dennis. So everyone's been privy to that previous information. Have you any queries or questions relating to that information? Councillor Christowski?
Yes, I have. Some of the information that has been provided for was before the ETA became operative. Therefore, do some of the assumptions that were made in those documents still apply today?
They do. There was, I think in one of them, there was a discussion about the amount of traffic that reduced. Since the ETA, that traffic has reduced further. So that hasn't changed the assumptions around the speed limit.
If I may, Your Worship, is that, am I correct in understanding that if the status quo were to remain and council took ownership of the road, NZTA would still have a control over the speed limits?
Yes, through the speed limit setting process, the speed limits need to go back to NZTA for ratification, and we went through that process the last time the speed limit bylaw was updated, and they still have the opportunity to veto those speed limits.
Thank you. Okay, any other Councillor Body?
We Worship, I'd just like to raise the question regards Mr. Lewis that nothing has changed. This goes back to probably what I'd find easier, maybe if our guest could actually address the issue, then we can discuss some of the facts and figures. Would that be the best way to do it, Your Worship?
Yeah, sure.
So if our guest could...
Yeah, sorry, is your name is George, is it? Yes. Yeah, George, you're obviously a resident. You were, been party to this for a long time.
Yeah, we're back onto the main road there, and we see the volume of traffic going through all the time, and the speed is sometimes out of hand.
Yeah, sure. Do you mind if the councillors ask you any questions in particular or anything like that? Did you want to ask any questions, Councillor Body?
I did, Your Worship. Could I just start off, please, Mr. Lewis? Your comment has been made about the traffic flows in the ETA. I have a letter here from Mr. Alan Burkett, who is the Principal Asset Manager, I think, of Transit, whatever you like to call themselves. It's difficult to provide accurate data on traffic flows on sections of highways as data is collected only at certain strategic locations. In general terms, the average daily traffic flow on State Highway 1 pre-ETA was about 11,800 vehicles, and post-ETA 5,000. Record crashes between Whaiwaka and 2 Mile Bay from 2009 to mid-12 are 1 serious, 5 minor and 8 non-injury. If we then turn to the documentation that is in our agenda items, there's also another letter from Mr. Burkett talking about the speed limits and breaches thereof in the 50 and 70k. There are really no breaches of that speed limit.
So the first part, the traffic volume, what I was suggesting was that in the documentation I've provided, they identified that even and this is pre-ETA, that the traffic volume step dropped, and that had little or no impact on the speed limits. Sorry, not on the speed limits, but the actual speed of traffic. And the letter from Mr. Burkett in 2008, he was reporting mean speeds and 85th percentile speeds, and they range 80 metres south of Rainbow Drive, a mean speed of 75.8 to 72.9. So I guess you could argue that those mean speeds are all above the 70k speed limit.
And percentages.
Right.
Okay.
Those are actual speeds.
All right, Councillor Jollins.
Thank you, Your Worship. George, I just had a couple of questions for you. And this is not a scientific thing at all, but how over the speed limit are those cars going through? What do you think they're doing?
Well, it's hard to judge because they go, well, we've never seen any speed cameras up there for this to be recorded or anything. There's no, they're out of hand. They come up the hill there and they're flying.
And in your personal view, do you think a speed camera would be a deterrent?
Possibly would be. They put one down outside the motels down here and it slows people down coming to town. But up there, once they see the sign, they're gone.
Thank you, George.
I'd just like to comment there, Councillor Jollins. It's not so much about exceeding the speed limit, it's that at the moment that section of highway has got a variable speed limit, so from the 20th of December to the 10th of February it's 50k, and then from the first Thursday before Easter to the last the last Thursday before Easter to the first Tuesday after Easter it is 50k. For other times of the year it's 70k. So the proposal was to reduce the speed limit permanently to 50k, and to achieve that was implementing some physical measures.
Okay, thanks, Dennis. Councillor Hickling.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Dennis, could you just explain, I think I'm aware, how long does it take for Transit New Zealand to accept that there is a possible safety issue on some of our roads? Because at least they are funding this project 53%. So in effect, now we've got it down to a more acceptable level of 140, 150,000 for the work that we intend to do. It's only costing the council probably 60 to 65,000 to carry out this work. And I know the process to get Transit New Zealand to accept that there is a safety issue, and there's documentation here. But this has taken us, almost 10 years to get to this particular point. 12.
I can't answer that, sorry, because it's dependent entirely on the safety issue that you're talking about, and what the details of that particular area are. So
from your point of view as a traffic engineer, you do perceive there is a safety issue with that stretch of road?
there is an issue with speeding and pedestrians. If the desire is to permanently reduce the speed limit to 50 kilometres an hour, then you need to do something other than just change the speed limits.
Okay.
Next, Councillor Cousins.
Through you, Chairman, Mr. Lewis, just I suppose what really is a statement, but in my time, it's just recording things right now. In the last 10 years, we've had a child killed on the control at the tail race bridge at Takanu. We've had a child killed in Waitahanui. We had a child about 15 years ago killed on the main road in here, plus this one in 2003. Are we suggesting that perhaps we're going to slow traffic down at each of these places for these one-off incidences? Because that's what we're asking.
I'm not suggesting that.
I'm concerned that we will be looking at all what could be little trouble spots all around the place.
Receiving this information at the moment, so I think possibly, I think George, thank you for coming, and Mr. Lewis. We'll obviously debate the actual expenditure later on, but it has been going a long time. A lot of residents have made submissions over the years, and I think that we need to take notice of those submissions. And it's been a long campaign for Georgia, you and your fellow people, and you've got out and made this campaign. You've got out and done the work. Got the NZTA involved. You've got the various agencies. So I think we need to take that seriously into our consideration. So we'll debate it a bit later on, and as far as the actual cost of that is concerned.
So, Your Worship, can I just make a comment? Certainly, as a resident, I appreciate you coming here today. I'm certainly not doing anything in regards. I would like to do something in the regards of looking at the speed limits. We've already heard from the councillor over there that won't change until the NTA do something. Mr. Lewis, you made the comment that you perceive the road to be dangerous. In our minutes, I think it is, or in a previous meeting, we suggested we get interested parties together, including the residents and the police. Do you have any documentation that in the last 18 months or 2 years, the local traffic patrols have actually indicated to this council that strip of road has a problem?
Firstly, Councillor Body, I didn't say that the road was dangerous.
That's what I inferred you were getting at. Well, I'll answer that. 18 months or 2 years ago, when this came across an organisation I was working with, I approached the head of the police in town. They had no issues whatever with the speed in that area. They had no complaints from anyone at all. So I visited them this morning. Unfortunately, the officer in concern, the head officer, was not available. And the only indication I got from the ones I talked to was that they didn't perceive an issue. Now, that's not in writing. I'm just telling you that. And I think that's quite an important part. If that road is a problem for the law enforcement, two things can happen. One, we can change the speed limits, and B, we can put patrol cars out there.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Park?
I'll just in the interest of we should be talking about what I'd just like to move that we received information relating to those terrorist traffic currently.
Seconded by Councillor Cousins. Thank you, George. Thanks, Dennis. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. Okay, we'll go back to item number 5. Concession sites on Lake Terrace viewing platform. Afternoon, Ella.
Good afternoon. So the suggested resolution put forward to you today is consistent with the majority opinion expressed by public submitters during the annual plan process. That is, that expressions of interest for the commercial occupation of the sites should not be sought. In line with this, the report also recommends that any future applications received for commercial leasing or licensing of the sites are declined on the basis that the reserve management plan does not provide for the activity and that this council does not support the leasing and licensing of the sites for commercial operators.
Councillor Park. Thanks, Ella.
Hi, thanks, Ella.
Just for clarity, and again, if we hit the deliberation minutes, I wasn't for sort of businesses setting up there where they are there on a daily basis, but I thought that we had a discussion around if there were specific sort of district celebrations or events to do with the ratou or such like, that people could make applications that would then go to the Fred Committee for consideration. I'm sort of wasn't of the mind that we were absolutely dead against bang, that's it, nothing. So
through you, Mr. Chairman, again, it's a standalone item, so you're discussing and debating that right now. You could move an amended resolution if you wished, which allowed it for one-off events or to go to Fred or the Fred Committee or whatever else you wanted. It's a standalone item, standalone debate.
no, that's cool. That's just what I thought we sort of came to in deliberations. I agree.
Through Mr. Chairman, I suppose this is part of the confusion, which leads us back to what we were saying about item 3 or item 4, whatever it was. That we've got confusion now because we've got no minutes to refer to.
I think we all sort of,
Well, I remember you, Your Worship, suggesting that option, and as far as I'm aware, we voted it down.
Okay, we've obviously seen the submissions come in, we know the submissions, so we can actually have the debate now as well, I suppose. Again, if we want to. So, Councillor Johns?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Just through the Chair, and maybe Mr. Green might be able to clarify this. If we don't go ahead with commercial items, it's reserve, which means that the Reserve Management Act applies for events. So, is that correct, or have I?
The Reserve Act would apply, but you've got a specific resolution proposed here, which is basically saying when someone puts an application in, it will be declined on the basis of this discussion and Reserve Management Plan. So, and
that includes events as well.
That would include events. You could change that resolution to talk about changing the Reserve Management Plan to allow it for some events at the discretion of council or whatever you wanted it to be.
Councillor Hagley?
Yeah, I didn't think that we'd closed the door totally on this, Your Worship, and these two resolutions basically do that. I would consider that I wouldn't like to see permanency there at all, and the submissions pretty much told us that. But certainly a one-off to do with either the Erupt Festival or Iron Man or any of those large events, but I wouldn't like to see the door closed on those. If it means we've got to have a minor change to the management plan.
If I can just comment on the events aspect of the use of that site. So with the events, they simply are booked, they book the reserve, and then if there's a commercial operator that's kind of ancillary to that event, then they're permitted to operate there. So that would be the case for those sites. So as officers would assess the event and what the commercial operation is. If it's closely related to the event, then we could actually permit that. But if you would, as Councillor Parks suggested, prefer for that to come through the Fred Committee for specific permission, we could put that in the resolution instead. Otherwise, the status quo would be that we could permit the occupation for one-off events.
I think the general feeling here is, Ella, that we don't want to close the door.
Okay.
The New Zealand String Orchestra, whatever, come along, and have a, someone can buy a coffee while they're watching the orchestra or something like that, so we don't want to absolutely close the door on it. So whether you could go away and perhaps work up a little resolution that sort of that effect.
I think the resolution refers to kind of the long-term leasing and licensing of the sites.
Yes.
It doesn't restrict our ability to allow commercial operators there during events if they're connected to the event.
And I guess, Your Worship, that was the point I was making, sorry, through Gareth, was my understanding is it doesn't prevent us from doing that.
I'd like to see it a bit more clarified in the resolution, though.
Me too.
Maybe a comma after leasing license and space for commercial operators, comma, with the exception of specific one-off events.
I think Your Worship would have to deal with one first, which I'm prepared to move.
I'll second that.
Your Worship, just before, just on the policy implications, it does say Lakeshore Reserve Management Plan will need to be amended to provide for this, even for the during events. It says in the policy implications, that does say on the other page it says only for commercial tradings on a long-term basis would need a change to the Reserve Management Plan, but not for one-off events, but on the policy
that must be
implications.
an error, sorry.
It implies it needs to be changed even for events. It does say it.
So I remember writing that, but then having a discussion with my team, and then I obviously forgot to change that part. Yeah, if that could come out of the policy implication.
All happy with number one.
How about if number 2 could be amended to specify long-term, so future applications received for long-term leases or licences?
I think we should need to deal with 1 and then we move on to 2, otherwise we don't move in seconds.
The first one I think we're pretty happy with. Is that right? It's been moved by Councillor Body and seconded by Councillor Cousins. So all those in favour on that?
Aye.
Okay. And we have a new number 2 that opens the door slightly for one-off occasions, for good offers, for possible usage for event-based activities.
Non-commercial.
So have you got a lovely resolution?
Sorry, Your Worship, I've just got an issue around this. I think we just need to clarify, because I don't want to see Mr. Whippy there because we've got something happening. If it's something unique and different, or it's a part of a festival or something alike, sort of along those lines, I've got no problem with it. But I don't want to see a coffee cart there. I don't want to see Mr. Whippy there. I don't want to see commercial operators there at all. Just things that are pertaining to particular events that enhance an event.
Can I make a really simple suggestion then? Let's just scrap 2 and stick with what you've just removed and resolved, and then if there's something off the cuff, if there's something interesting, what you just described, there's nothing stopping us to bring it back to Fred or someone else to have that discussion. So if we just get rid of 2 altogether, you've removed it, and
I just obviously, things change, and a new officer might come in and say, look at that, and we get a nice person through reception with a really neat idea, gets turned away because we don't get to know about it.
So just remove 2.
Yeah, so as long as we're all
Do
clear.
you not think that number 1 just needs to have a minor adjustment to allow the one-off through Fred applications?
I don't think you can. It's just been moved and seconded and passed.
Yeah, that's why I'm suggesting number 2.
You could now move another one if you needed to,
Okay.
but I say you don't have to.
John, what is it?
Well, I think you're right, Your Worship. Number 2 just needs a slight tweaking to allow applications to be seen by the Fred Committee.
Yeah.
Well, through you, Mr. Chairman, I think that's how it was left last time. That's what Gareth said, because you wanted to have that put in there, and I'm sure Gareth must have mentioned at that time that there was no need for it because we're not closing the door 100% by that resolution. That's how it was left.
So number 2, Ella, possible one-off.
Without number 2, you already have a process that is allowed for, so you don't actually need to tell people that you have a process to be able to do that, because it's already in the reserve management plan process.
You're just saying that you're not going out for expressions of interest at this time.
And Your Worship, by just passing this first one, we're very clearly sending out to the community that we listen to them and we are protecting the integrity of that site.
So just to clarify, if I do receive an application for occupation of the site, say during events, council would prefer for that application to be received by the Fred Committee?
Yes.
Okay.
Well done, Ella. No spelling mistakes.
And obviously,
Can I just clarify and ask a quick question? Because I've been waving my pen around for a while and you've ignored me. But you make more noise. It may be someone that wants to occupy it for longer than an event. Like it could be a really good musical situation over a few weeks during the summer. We wouldn't discount that, would we? So
we can now bring it to Fred.
Right. Okay. We just want to make sure it's not just a one-off.
So I just want to be really careful that not closing the door. We don't shy away from entrepreneurship and all that sort of thing in this district.
It could be someone that wants to be there for a few weeks over
tell
summer.
Your team, Ella, sorry.
Thank you. I've stopped waving.
We're still open to ideas, but we're not seeking ridge.
All you have done is said that you will not proactively seek.
Correct. Yeah. Lovely. Thank you very much, John and Ella. Okay, where are we up to now? 6.